Hello everyone, welcome back. Zargot here. So, we are rolling into our final Rivals of Ixalan spoilers. Nothing too crazy we're spoiling today, just kind of going over the rest of the commons, uncommons. I think there's a rare or two left to look at. But anyway, hope you're going to enjoy talking about these last few cards as we're all getting kind of psyched up to play with the new set. If you do, make sure to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video. So first up, we do have our 5 dual-colored lands. These are actually in the uncommon slot in this set, so you're not going to see these as frequently as you would have seen like the common guild gates. But these are fine. These are mana fixing. They do come into play tapped. Not a big deal though, and limited. They're mana fixing, let you play 2 colors more consistently. They're a splash a 3rd color, and a lot of people actually like these in Commander because they're not as expensive as dual lands. Next, we've got Traveler's Amulet. Good, cheap mana fixing. I like Traveler's Amulet whenever it's unlimited. It allows you to, play 3 colors a little more consistently, and it also thins out your deck to get your stronger cards faster. Next, we have Orska Relic, 3 casting cost artifact. It has Ascend, taps for 1 colorless mana, or if you have City's Blessing, you can tap, sacrifice it, gain 3 life, and draw a card. I like these cards unlimited. This provides a little bit of a ramp for you, and then late game, when you don't need the ramp anymore, you can sacrifice it to get your card back. There's no Mind Stone. And a lot of this does depend on how Ascend actually works. Not being able to play with it yet, I haven't seen how powerful it is. This may be just absolutely fantastic. I also think that this is probably going to be chucked into a few Commander decks as well. Next we got Strider Harness, 3 casting cost artifact equipment that gives the creature +1/+1 in haste. Only costs 1 to equip. It's a little expensive to cast, but the cheap equip cost makes me feel like in my limited decks, I might actually find myself putting a copy of this in from time to time. Next up, we have Relentless Raptor, red-white for a 3/3 Vigilance Dino. It must attack or block each turn. I think if you're in an aggressive deck, this is going to be an excellent card on the curve because it's doing exactly what you want to do. You've got a big guy, it's got Vigilance, you're going to be getting in each turn, especially if you have a lot of combat tricks. But if you are behind, you draw this mid to late game, probably not a fantastic creature if your opponent has more aggressive creatures on the board since you're going to have to block with it right away. But overall, I think this is a good power level and it'll be great and limited. Next up, we have Cleansing Ray. 1 colorless, 1 white for sorcery. You can either destroy target vampire or destroy target enchantment. For me, this is a very versatile sideboard card. I like it. Next, we have Aggressive Verge, green and 1 for an instant speed. Trigger creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn, draw a card. I typically like these cards in my limited decks. It doesn't give a huge buff to the creature, but it does allow you to win some combats, and then it also replaces itself as well. Then we get the Gilgrove Stalker, green and 1 for a 2/1 Merfolk Warrior. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. This card's fine. If you're looking to be really aggressive, you put this down on turn 2, it's probably going to sneak a little bit of damage in. But for me, I think I still like Deeproot Warrior a little bit better just because it is able to be a 3/3 when it's blocked. Next, we get the Hardy Veteran, green and 1 for 2/2 Human Warrior. As long as it's your turn, it costs +0/+2. Obviously this card would be a lot better if it got that ability on your opponent's turn, but this is a 2/2 for 2. I like bears on my deck, and it does have an upside which may be relevant from time to time. Next, we have Crashing Tide, blue and 2 for a sorcery speed, which gains flash if you control a Merfolk. Allows you to bounce a creature to its owner's hand and draw a card. Obviously, if you're playing Merfolk, this is a pretty strong card. Allows you to blow out blocks. You prevent removal spells from hitting your creatures, and then replaces itself. If you're not playing Merfolk, I think this card is still fine. Obviously, it doesn't allow you to do anything on your opponent's turn, but the fact that it does bounce a blocker out of the way and then replace itself is pretty decent. Next, we got Squire's Devotion, white and 2 for an enchantment. It gives creature +1/+1 and lifelink. It also lets you make a 1/1 vampire lifelink token. I like Mark of the Vampire as a 1 of in my decks, just because if you're able to put these sort of effects on a creature with evasion and get a few swings in, it really kind of puts the game pretty strongly in your favor. So I think I can see myself playing one of these in my decks. Next, we've got Knight of the Stampede, 3 and a green for a 2/4 Human Knight. Makes your dinosaur spells cost 2 less to cast. This card's fine. It's not the Hunt Master. It's not going to give your dinos and just go completely crazy. But if you're looking to really ramp dinos out, this guy's going to fit that need. And also, it's got a decent body for blocking as well. Next up, Soul the Rapids. Double blue and 3 for a 3/2 flying hexproof elemental. This is another one of these cards that I actually like unlimited. If you are playing against an opponent that doesn't have flyers, they're never going to be able to deal with this guy. And let's just say you're playing white-blue flyers and you put Squire's Devotion on this. That's going to be pretty tough to deal with. Next up, Martyr of the Dusk, white and 1 for 2/1 Vampire Soldier. When it dies, you get to make a 1/1 Vampire token with lifelink. This card's fine on the curve, and vampires, it's a 2-power creature on turn 2, and it does offer a little bit of value in replacing itself with a token when it dies. Next, we've got Gruesome Fate, black and 2 for sorcery speed. Each opponent loses 1 life for each creature you control. I play with Bishop of the Bloodstain. I think this card is fine. It's actually a little bit of a 1-up since it's not just for vampires. So if you're cranking out creature tokens, I think this card's going to be decent. I think it'll really be good in Two-Headed Giant, since this card should easily be able to represent 10 damage to your opponents. Next we have Kitesail Corsair, blue and 1 for 2/1 human pirate, which gains flying if it's attacking. This is another card that I like in aggressive decks. If you're playing that blue-red aggressive pirate deck, this guy's just going to be 2/1 flyer for 2. Next we've got Sun Sentinel, white and 1 for 2/2 human soldier, which has vigilance. I like bears in my limited decks. I like bears with abilities even better, so you'll definitely find a copy or two of this in some of my decks. So next up, it looks like we've got Hunt the Weak back in our format. Green and 3, the sorcery speed lets you put a 1/1 counter on target creature control. Then that creature fights a creature you don't control. I've always liked Hunt the Weak. I don't like it in my super aggressive decks that are littered with small creatures. I do like it in more of the mid-range, the later decks, but it is green, so I think this is going to be fine with your dinos. Okay, and Plummet's back as well. Green and 1, instant speed, destroy a target creature with flying. Plummet's fine. I always like to have a copy of this in my sideboard. Next we got the Stampeding Horncrest. Red and 4 for 4/4 dino. It does gain haste if you control another dinosaur. So this isn't a charging monster store. It's definitely not at that power level. But 5 for 4/4 is pretty standard issue. And if you're playing red and you've got dinos in your deck, this guy's got haste. Next up, Voracious Vampire. Black and 2 for 2/2 Vampire Knight. It has Menace. When it enters play, it lets you give a creature +1/+1 a menace till end of turn. Besides the terrifying artwork on this card, this is fine. I might throw a copy of this in my limited decks. I mean, it is a 2/2 menace for 3, so it's not, overly powered, but the fact that it does allow you to sneak a creature through from time to time can be relevant. Next we have Spirewinder. This is a blue and 3 for 2/3 flyer with Ascent. It does get +1/+1 if you have City's Blessing. This card seems a little slow to me. I don't think you're going to have City's Blessing triggered on turn 4 very often, so it's going to be 2/3 for 4. But later in the game, if you pay 4 and you have City's Blessing and this is 3/4 flyer, I think that's pretty decent. Okay, so Raptor Companion got reprinted in Rivals of Ixalan. That's interesting. Nothing's changed here. This is still white and 1 for 3/1 dino. This is an aggressive dino. Next up, we have got Overgrown Armasaur, double green and 3 for 4/4 dino. Its Enraged trigger allows you to make 1/1 green Saproling tokens. So I guess this is kind of like our Thallid dino. This creature's fine. It's 5 for 4/4, so if you don't have a better creature in that slot, it'll serve the purpose. And if you're able to trigger Enrage consistently and easily, then this guy will let you dirtle up if you need to get defensive. Next up, we have Tel'Aran's Crown, red and 1 for an enchantment. When it enters play, it does do 1 damage to the enchanted creature, but then it gives creature +3/+0 and trample. I like this card a lot, actually. I mean, this makes your dinos huge. Gives them trample, which is what you definitely need. Nothing's worse than having your 6/6 blocked by 1/1 vampire token with lifelink. And then it does trigger Enrage as well. So actually, I really like this card in limited, and every now and then, this could also double as a removal spell. So next up we have Recover, black and 2. This is sorcery speed that allows you to return target creature from your graveyard to your hand and draw a card. This is definitely a 1-up from the normal recurrence cards because it does allow you to draw a card. So I guess you just have to ask yourself when picking this, is there anything that I'm going to want to bring back from my graveyard this game? Next up, Sworn Guardian, blue and 1 for 1/3 Merfolk Warrior. This is a vanilla creature. If you're looking for a defensive 2-drop, this will be your guy. Next up, we have Snubhorn Sentry, white for an 0/3 with Ascent. This is a dino. It gets +3/+0 if you have City's Blessing. So it's a 3/3 for 1 white. I don't see myself drafting this card very often, just because you're probably not going to be getting City's Blessing till you're into turn 5, turn 6. And at that point, it is a 3/3 for 1, but I would rather be drawing other relevant cards. Next up, we have Jade Bear. This is a 1 green for 1/1 Merfolk Shaman. When it comes into play, you can put a 1/1 counter on another Merfolk you control. I don't typically like these kind of cards just because they're clunky. It's a 1-drop that you don't play on turn 1. You don't play it on turn 2 either because, well, you need to play another Merfolk first before you can activate its ability. So for me, it's just a little clunky. Next, we've got Orska Raptor, double red and 2 for a 3/4 dino. This is just another vanilla creature here. From time to time, you are missing on your 4-drops, and this is fine to fill that slot. Next up, we have Vampire Revenant, black and 3 for 3/1 Flying Vampire Spirit. This is another one of your standard vanilla creatures. 3/1 Flyer for 4 is usually decent in some of your decks, but it does have the upside of being a vampire, so it can synergize with some of your pumps or vampire abilities. Next up is Waterknot, double blue and 1. This is an enchant creature aura. This taps the enchanted creature, and then it doesn't get to untap during the controller's untap step. This is just Claustrophobia reprinted. I love Claustrophobia. I'll always snag those up in my blue deck, so I'm happy to see this back. Next up, we have another reprint, Divine Verdict, white and 3, instant speed, destroy target attacking or blocking creature. Not a card I usually pick from unlimited decks in multiples, but I think 1 is fine. Next up, we have Jadecraft Artisan. Green and 3 for 3/3 Merfolk Shaman. When it enters play, trigger creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So we've got ourselves a Hill Giant with an upside. Next up, we do have a reprint for Shatter here, red and white for a instant speed, destroy target artifact. I mean, Shatter is what it is. You know, I typically like to have a copy of this on my sideboard for options. Next up, we have Canal Monitor, black and 4 for a 5/3 Lizard with a lot of flavor text. Canal Monitor is just another one of those creatures to help fill that 5 slot if you're having difficulty. Next up, we have Mist-Cloaked Herald, 1 blue for a 1/1 Merfolk Warrior that cannot be blocked. I actually like this card Unlimited. This is one of those payoff cards that if you have a lot of pump spells or equipments, it can be really annoying for your opponent. Next up, we have Exultant Sky Marcher, double white and 1 for 2/3 Flying Vampire Soldier. This is what I like for a vanilla creature. You know, straightforward, it's a 2/3 flyer for 3, it's good on the curve. Next up, we have Juggleborn Pioneer, green and 2 for 2/2 Merfolk Scout. When it comes into play, you get to make one of the 1/1 Merfolk tokens with hexproof. I mean, this isn't Tishana's Wayfinder, which I think is a little bit better, but you know, if you don't have the Wayfinder, this is fine too. Next up, we have Bombard, red and 2 for a instant speed spell that does 4 damage to target creature. So this is kind of like Char a little bit. I mean, it doesn't let you send it to your opponent's face, so it's not quite as strong. But you know, 4 damage is very, very relevant and will take care of a lot of problematic creatures in the format. Next up, we have Dark Inquiry, black and 2, sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You can choose a non-land card from it, and they're going to discard that card. Essentially, this is just the common version of Thoughtseize. You know, it costs 2 more, and you don't lose the life. And next we have Sailor Amines and Legion Conquistador being reprinted again in Rivals of Ixalan. There are no changes for these cards. They are identical to their Ixalan predecessors. Next up, we have Orska Frillback, green and 2. This is a 4/2 dinosaur with no abilities. This is identical to Frenzy Raptor. So if you're in red-green dinos, you have another option for the aggressive 4/2 dino for 3. Next up, we have Brazen Freebooter, red and 3 for a 3/3 Human Pirate. When it comes into play, you get to create a treasure token. So we've just got ourselves another basic Hill Giant here with a small upside. Next, we got Grasping Scoundrel, 1 black for a 1/1 Human Pirate. It does get +1/+0 as long as it's attacking. So this is just another card that falls in line with an aggressive pirate deck. Next up, we have Siren Reaver, blue and 3 for a 3/2 Flyer. This is a pirate. It also has a raid trigger that it costs 1 less if you attack with a creature this turn. I actually like the Siren Reaver a lot. If you're playing an aggressive deck, I mean, this is a 3/2 Flyer for 3. Typically, best case scenario, you're going to get a 2/3 Flyer for 3, so this is definitely above the curve. Next up is Luminous Bonds, white and 2 for an enchantment. Enchanted a creature cannot attack or block. This is essentially pacifism. It does cost 1 colorless more to cast, but it's a strong effect. So, I mean, I'll be happy to play a copy or 2 of this in my limited deck. Alright, we've got another reprint from Ixalan, Colossal Dreadmaw. No changes here, same artwork, same casting costs. You know, a copy or 2 of this is still just completely fine in your Go Big Dinos deck. Next up is Goblin Trailblazer, red and 1 for 2/1 Goblin Pirate with Menace. If you're playing aggressive pirates, this is where you want to be. You know, a Menace creature on turn 2, and there's enough equipment and combat tricks that can really punish your opponent for having to double block this early in the game. Next up, we've got Impaled, double black and 2 for sorcery speed, destroy target creature. Nothing wrong here. I mean, this is cheaper than Contract Killing. You don't get any treasure tokens out of it, but this is just hard removal. Next up is Sanguine Glorifier, white and 3 for 3/3 Vampire Cleric. When it enters play, you can put a 1/1 counter on another target vampire you control. So out of the Hill Giants from this set, this is the one I like the most. A 3/3 for 4 is pretty standard, but allowing you to put a 1/1 counter on a vampire you control is going to let you beef that flyer a little bit more, or you know, push through one of those smaller ground creatures. Next up, we have Strength of the Pack. Double green and 4, sorcery speed. Lets you put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. I actually like this card a lot for limited play. This is the kind of effects I like. It lets your big creatures go bigger, and if you're playing more of an early or mid-range deck where your creatures might tend to get burned out a little bit in mid to late game, if your opponent's playing creatures of big toughness, this allows you just to go above and beyond what your opponent is doing. I don't think this will see any constructed play. I mean, it seems a bit costly, but for me, for limited, yeah, I'm happy to try this card out. Next up is Charging Tuscannon, double red and 3 for 4/4 Dino with Trample, and when it does combat damage to a player, it does double that damage. I like this card. I mean, this is the kind of creature that really draws out the removal spells, unfortunately, because it does represent a lot of damage if it goes unchecked. But it does make unfavorable blocks when your opponent just starts throwing lifelink tokens against it, because it's still going to do double the trample damage. So I like this card. I think it's going to be a good addition to the Dinos. Next up, we have Pride of Conquerors, white and 1 for an instant speed. This has Ascend. Gives all your creatures +1/+1 till end of turn. If you have the City's Blessing, it's going to get +2/+2 till end of turn. This seems like another card that's just directly geared toward vampire tokens. I mean, if you can get a few tokens in play and you cast this, you're going to get the City's Blessing. All your vampire tokens are going to be 3/3 lifelinkers. I mean, that just seems very, very strong to me. Next up, Reckless Rage, 1 red, instant speed. Lets you do 4 damage to a creature you don't control, and 2 damage to a creature you do control. Okay, in limited, I love this card. I mean, this is 4 damage for 1 red mana. This is going to take out a lot of the problem creatures outside of the big dinos at instant speed for a very cheap cost. It also lets you trigger your own enrage abilities. So you can take a potential attacker or blocker off the board on your opponent's side and then take advantage of your creature's ability. Draw extra cards, get extra damage in. I mean, this seems very, very strong and limited. I'll be happy to pick this very highly. And at 4 damage for 1 red mana at instant speed, I wouldn't be surprised to see this card played outside of limited. Next up, we have Oathsworn Vampire, black and 1 for 2/2 Vampire Knight. Enters the battlefield tapped, and you can cast it from your graveyard if you gain life this turn. Well, I've already seen quite a few infinite combos with this card online. I mean, that as soon as I read the card, I knew there was going to be a bunch of those. But for limited play, I like this. 2/2 for 2. I mean, it does come into play tapped, so you're not going to be able to continue to cast this and block over and over again. I mean, at least not immediately. It is going to be a turn in between. But it's a 2/2 for 2 with an upside. It's a vampire. It is going to let you abuse any of your sacrifice abilities, because if you're playing vampires, it's usually not too difficult to gain a few extra life points each turn. Next up, Curious Obsession, 1 blue for a creature enchantment. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and if it does combat damage to a player, you just draw a card. During your end step, if you didn't attack with the creature, you have to sacrifice Curious Obsession. This is another one of those cards that I'm a little bit wary of, just because it's so easy to get 2 for 1 with these, but there are so many flying creatures, and actually quite a few options for unblockable creatures in the format that, I feel in the right deck you can definitely abuse this ability. Next up, Everdawn Champion, double white and 1 for 2/2 Human Soldier, and you prevent all combat damage done to the champion. I mean, this card right here, it blocks for days and days and days. This forces your opponent to have hard removal to deal with this, or else you're going to be able to chump block their best guy every single turn. It usually turns on raid triggers, and if you're playing any of the equipment cards in your deck, this guy's going to become a pretty viable threat. Next up, we have Sea Red, 1 red, 1 colorless for creature enchantment. An enchanted creature gets +2/+1 on first strike, and you have to sacrifice it during your end step if you didn't attack with the creature this turn. Well, this is an extremely aggressive card. I will be happy to slam this on any of my menace creatures and my pirate deck. I think it's going to be really hard to deal with if you're able to get this out early in the game. Next up, we have Mausoleum Harpy, black and 4 for 3/3 Flying Harpy with Ascend, and we have the City's Blessing. You're going to put a 1/1 counter on this each time a creature you control dies. I like this card a lot in the Vampire Token deck, just because I think pretty consistently on turn 5 when you play this, you're going to get City's Blessing right away, and then all of your Vampire tokens double up their power because once they die, they're just going to pump the Harpy. Next up, Expel from Orska, blue and 1 for an instant speed with Ascent. Lets you put an unland permanent back in its owner's hand, or if you have City's Blessing, you put it on top of their deck. I think this is a very strong card. Being able to cast a better version of Run Aground for 2 at instant speed is extremely strong. In worst case scenario, this is a bounce spell for 2, which is completely fine. I'll be happy to pick up a copy or 2 of this for my blue decks. Next up, we have Imperial Ceratops, white and 4 for a 3/5 Dino, and Rage Trigger lets you gain 2 life. I mean, this card's okay. If you really, really need something to fill your 5 slot, this will fill the 5 slot. It's got a big body, but for me, there's so many other good viable dinos, and the 5-drop with a lot more power, I think that I'll probably pass on this one typically. Next up is Cacophodon, green and 3 for 2/5 Dino, and Rage Trigger whenever it takes damage, untap target permanent. Obviously, this card's going to be the part of several infinite combos. But aside from that, in a limited format, I mean, this is going to be 2/5 for 4, so if you're looking for something to fill that need, it's definitely going to take care of that. The rest of its ability really depends on what you got in your draft picks or in your pool. I mean, I can definitely see this card being abused depending on what other picks you have in your deck. Alright, we have Needletooth Raptor, red and 3 for 2/2 Dino, and Rage Trigger allows it to do 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls. Okay. Well, this is definitely a guy that forces your opponent to stop attacking unless they have a piece of hard removal. And with 2 toughness, you can definitely take advantage of that Enrage Trigger and really wipe out your opponent's board, given the right cards in your deck. Okay, Reaver Ambush, black and 2, instant speed. Exile target creature with power 3 or less. Okay, so Vanquish the Weak just got 1-upped big time here. I mean, this is a fantastic card. Exiling a creature, maybe not super relevant in this format because there's not a ton of graveyard interaction. There is some, but I mean, it's instant speed, it's hard removal. I like this card. I'm happy to pick this up. Okay, now we've got Slippery Scoundrel. Okay, the name is fantastic. Anyway, this is blue and 2 for 2/2 human pirate. It has Ascend, and if you have City's Blessing, it has hexproof and cannot be blocked. Okay, this is another one of those cards that can just completely steal a game away from your opponent. I like this a lot. I like that it's a pirate because it's going to be able to abuse all of the pirate equipment, and just any enchantment you put on is going to make it better. Obviously, if you don't have City's Blessing, this is a 2/2 for 3 with no abilities, so pretty weak. But mid to late game, you should be able to turn on City's Blessing, and this guy's going to be kind of tough to deal with. Next up, we have Majestic Helioterrace. This is white and 3 for 2/2 flying dino. Whenever it attacks, you can give a dino you control fly until end of turn. I mean, this card's fine situationally. If your opponent doesn't have flyers, this card's going to be excellent. It's going to let you get flying to a Frenzied Raptor, or late game, your Colossal Dreadmaw is going to get flying and just really put the pressure on your opponent. It is a 2/2 for 4, so it's easily removed. Any removal spell is going to be able to target this. But again, situationally, I think this is going to be a good card unlimited. Next up, we have Crested Herd Caller, double green and 3 for 3/3 dinosaur with trample. It does create a 3/3 dinosaur token with trample when it enters play. Well, it definitely wins Cutest Dinosaur in the set award, hands down. But for playability, I mean, it's a couple 3/3 tramples for 5, so that's completely fine. And if you're running cards like Strength of the Pact, I mean, this is going to be really, really good then. Next up, Shake the Foundation, red and 2, instant speed, do 1 damage to each creature without flying, and draw a card. Well, if your opponent's playing vampire tokens, this is going to fix that issue there. And if you get a lot of dinosaurs that have Enrage, this is also going to allow you to turn on all those Enrage triggers. Next up, Sadistic Sky Marcher, black and 2 for 2/2 flying, lifelink vampire soldier. Now it does cost 1 more to cast unless you reveal a vampire card from your hand, but if you're paying vampires, that's not going to be a problem. I mean, I like this. This is a 1-up from Sky March Bloodletter, 3 for 2/2 flying, lifelink. It's definitely a cut above your normal 3-drop flyer. Alright, we got Riverwise Augur. I mean, blue and 3 for 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. When it comes into play, draw 3 cards, and then put 2 cards from your hand back on top of your deck. I like this card in controlling decks. I mean, this is Brainstorm on a Merfolk. If you have shuffle effects or things like Evolving Wilds, this is definitely going to be a lot better. But yeah, I mean, this is a fine card. Next up, we have Blazing Hope, 1 white instant. It allows you to exile target creature that's power is greater than or equal to your life total. I don't like this card in limited. I mean, for this card to be good, you're going to be having to get beat up pretty bad by your opponent. I don't see any other cards in the format that allow you to use this ability. So for limited purposes, I really don't like this card at all. Outside of limited, I don't know if this is going to see any play, possibly in modern, but with so many other Swords and Path of Exile cards, I just don't see this being viable. Alright everyone, we've made it to the end of our Rivals of Ixalan spoilers. This is our last card here, and I actually like it a lot. This is Hadana's Climb. Blue, green, and 1. It's a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. And if that creature has 3 1/1 counters, you get to transform this into one of the legendary lands. Winged Temple of Orska. Taps for 1 mana of any color, of course, but you can play blue, green, and 1. Tap it, and you give target creature you control +X/+X and flying till end of turn, X being the creature's power. This is a very strong card. I mean, if you've been putting 1/1 counters on a 1/1, when this transforms, you can make an 8/8 flyer that turn right away. Very strong, really hard to deal with. If you get to flip this card and start using this ability, I think it's going to be hard for you to lose the game. And limited, of course. But I like this card a lot. I think it's very strong. I'm going to pick this very, very highly. I might even be choosing this as a first pick, even though it's a double-colored card. And of course, this is going to be a ton of fun in Commander as well. Alright everyone, so we've officially seen all of the cards in the Rivals of Ixalan set now. I had a lot of fun checking these out. I'm super excited about all the new legendary dinosaurs. I really love the dinosaurs in Ixalan, and I knew I was going to love the ones in Rivals as well. I like all the new legendary transform lands. They look like they're going to be really, really strong, going to add a lot of fun to Commander, and going to be really powerful and limited. So I'm just really looking forward to the set coming out so I can start drafting this online, maybe even play some sealed events. Anyway, hope you enjoyed checking out the new cards with me. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.